the chosen one. The storm raged inside you, long before the world saw a single crack on your surface. You stood in silence, carrying the weight of invisible wars, smiling while breaking, praying while doubting, breathing while drowning. And when the voice whispered, "This is your awakening," you almost laughed. Because how could awakening come wrapped in suffering? You didn't know it then, but you were standing at the edge of divine interruption. The moment when heaven doesn't ask for your permission, it simply unfolds its plan through your pain. You felt abandoned, betrayed, forgotten by the very light you once trusted. But that was never abandonment. It was initiation. Every chosen one reaches this point, the moment when faith shatters into questions too heavy to hold. You tried to understand why every door closed, why every prayer felt like silence, why love turned into lessons and peace into battles. The truth is, you weren't being punished. You were being refined. But refinement feels like ruin before it feels like rebirth. You walked through seasons that felt like perpetual midnights. The world moved on, but you remained in the furnace, asking, "How long?" And heaven answered, "Not with time, but with transformation." Because chosen souls don't heal by escape, they heal by endurance. There were nights you screamed into the void, asking if God still remembered your name. But in the unseen, every unanswered prayer was a seed of authority. Every tear was recorded as evidence. And every heartbreak was the hammer shaping your spirit into something unbreakable. Your pain had a purpose. It wasn't random. It was coded, precise, and timed. The universe was dismantling everything temporary so that only the eternal could remain. You were never losing your life. You were shedding your disguise. Still, you doubted. You questioned why your faith didn't protect you from pain. No one told you that faith doesn't always prevent the storm. It teaches you how to walk through it without drowning. And so you walked, broken, bleeding, silent, yet every step rewrote your destiny. There were times you mistook survival for failure. You thought endurance meant weakness. But the unseen realm knew the truth. Every time you refused to collapse, a cycle ended. Every night you survived became a declaration. The contract of suffering is nearing its expiration. The breaking point was not your destruction, it was your unveiling. When everything inside you screamed to give up, something deeper whispered, "Not yet." That whisper wasn't your imagination, it was your origin calling you home. Because chosen ones don't find their purpose in comfort, they find it in the ruins of everything they thought they were. You were not being broken apart. You were being broken open. When you felt abandoned, heaven was gathering witnesses. When you felt silenced, your story was being recorded in divine archives. And when you finally reached the point of nothing left to lose, that was the moment heaven could finally move. The world thought your silence meant defeat. But silence is where power regenerates. You weren't dying. You were being rewritten. Now look back for a moment. Every heartbreak that shattered you had a lesson buried inside. Every betrayal exposed what could no longer travel with you. Every loss cleared the space for divine inheritance. The pain was brutal, yes, but it was sacred. It was the proof that you were chosen for something greater than comfort. You see, the enemy never fights the unchosen. The weight of your warfare is the evidence of your significance. If you were ordinary, you wouldn't be targeted so violently. But you were never meant to be ordinary. You were meant to break the cycle itself. And though it felt endless, it wasn't. The suffering had terms. It had an expiration date written in the spiritual realm long before it touched your life. You endured because you were designed to outlast it. Your suffering wasn't proof of weakness, it was proof of assignment. You were chosen to carry the generational debt that others couldn't pay. And through your survival, that debt has been cleared. You've been walking through a battlefield disguised as a life lesson, but something has shifted. The air feels different now, doesn't it? You're not the same. The pain that once haunted you now stands outside the door, unable to enter. You've walked out of the furnace, and the flames can no longer recognize you. This is not optimism, it's divine order. The cycle is complete. The contract is void. The war that tried to bury you has already served its purpose. Your scars aren't reminders of defeat, they're certificates of survival. The darkness thought it could consume you, but in the process, it burned itself out. And now, as you rise from the ashes, you carry something no one can imitate: authority born from agony. That authority is what makes the heavens move when you speak. It's what makes the same storms that once drowned you bow in your presence. You were not destroyed, you were initiated. You are no longer the one begging for mercy. You are the one carrying it. So stand in the silence. Feel the shift. The breaking point was never your end, it was your beginning. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign of your divine alignment. Because from this day forward, you will never have to walk through that same fire again. You have outlasted it. You have exhausted it. And now, it has no power left to name you. Your pain has expired. Your destiny begins. The chosen one. The night no longer terrifies you, yet it still whispers. You've survived the breaking, but survival has its own kind of silence. And in that silence, the war doesn't end. It simply changes shape. You no longer face enemies that come with faces. Now, the battle hides inside you, between what you believe and what you fear, between who you were and who you are becoming, between the voice that says you're free and the echo that insists you're not ready. You stand between two worlds, the ashes of who you were and the light of who you are destined to be. It's strange, isn't it, to have escaped the storm, only to discover that the thunder still lives inside your chest. You wonder if healing is real or just another illusion wrapped in hope. You tell yourself that the worst is over, yet your hands still tremble when peace feels too quiet. Because peace, after long chaos, feels unnatural, like silence after war. Every chosen one walks through this valley. It's the sacred in-between, where faith is not yet certainty and freedom feels unfamiliar. You were forged in fire, and now you must learn to live without the flames. Your mind replays the past like a movie that refuses to end. You hear the voices of those who doubted you, see the faces of those who betrayed you, and feel the ghost of the pain you thought you buried. But that's not regression, it's revelation. Those echoes exist to remind you of how much power you now carry over what once consumed you. You are not back where you started. You are standing above the ruins, deciding what deserves to rise with you. And yet, the doubt persists. Was it all for something, you ask? Was the suffering necessary? The heavens do not answer in words, they answer in mirrors. Everything you touch begins to reflect your transformation. People treat you differently, not because you changed your name, but because your energy no longer kneels. You've shifted dimensions, and the old world doesn't know how to read you anymore. You used to chase approval, now you attract reverence. You used to fight for peace, now peace follows you. But deep down, you're afraid of the silence that comes with it. You miss the chaos because chaos gave you purpose. You don't know who you are without the battle. That's the secret no one tells the chosen ones. Victory feels lonely. When the war ends, purpose must evolve. And so, the universe begins another lesson. Not through pain this time, but through stillness. You are being taught how to exist without armor, how to trust joy without suspicion, how to receive without earning. But learning peace requires a deeper courage than surviving pain, because survival is reactive, but peace is surrender. And surrender means letting go of the identity that suffering built. You spent years defining yourself by endurance. Now, you must learn to define yourself by grace. That shift feels like death, but it's rebirth. Your spirit begins to whisper. You are no longer who they hurt. You are who the pain transformed. And that realization frightens you, because transformation always demands the burial of the old self. So you fight the letting go. You hold on to memories that have expired. You cling to patterns that feel safe. But every time you do, the universe sends a gentle reminder: nothing dead belongs in your destiny. You will notice this in small ways. People who once mattered will grow silent. Doors you forced open will close again. Opportunities you thought you needed will dissolve without explanation. It's not rejection, it's alignment. Heaven removes what cannot coexist with your evolution, and still, part of you resists. You ask, why must I keep losing? But what feels like loss is actually release. The weight that once defined you has no authority in the realm you now walk in. The frequency of your soul has changed, and everything that vibrates lower will naturally fall away. Let it. You are not being emptied, you are being prepared for inheritance. Every spiritual elevation requires isolation. That loneliness you feel is not abandonment, it's divine recalibration. The silence you hate so much is not punishment, it's the space where your next instruction is written. And when it comes, it won't sound like thunder this time, it will sound like peace. The voice that once shouted will now whisper. The guidance that once burned will now breathe, because heaven speaks differently to the healed. But you must make a choice. Will you trust the quiet? Will you believe that your destiny no longer requires constant pain to prove its authenticity? Because if you keep searching for storms, you'll never learn how to live in the sunlight. Every chosen one faces this second initiation, the war within, the test of peace, the trial of trust. It's not about surviving anymore. It's about accepting the victory you already won. And in that acceptance, your power stabilizes. You stop chasing closure and start embodying completion. You stop explaining your pain and start speaking from your healing. You stop looking backward, because what you see behind you can't survive where you're going. The version of you that suffered was the student. The version of you that's emerging is the teacher, and your life itself has become the lesson. You are not meant to hide your scars, they are your sermons. Every mark on your soul is a map leading others toward their own freedom. The heavens didn't choose you to stay silent. They chose you to become evidence that survival can evolve into revelation. And this is where your next calling begins, not in battle, but in embodiment, not in running, but in rising. So when the voice whispers again, "You have been chosen," you will no longer tremble. You will simply nod and say, "I understand now," because the storm outside may have ended, but the transformation inside is only beginning. If you feel this truth, hit like and subscribe, because this is only the middle of your awakening. The chosen one. You thought the silence meant peace, but now it echoes louder than war. After the storm, there comes a stillness that feels unfamiliar, even cruel. You've endured the breaking, survived the battle, and walked through the fire. Yet now, in this calm that was supposed to be your reward, you find yourself haunted by questions that refuse to die. The war outside has ended, but inside, something darker has begun, a quiet unraveling of everything you thought you understood about destiny. The voice that once guided you now whispers less often. The signs that once appeared in perfect timing now come slower, almost hesitant. You begin to wonder if heaven has grown silent, or if it's simply waiting for you to listen differently. You try to fill the emptiness with meaning, with motion, with purpose, but the more you do, the more the emptiness expands. It's as if the universe is holding its breath, waiting for you to face something you've avoided all along, not the darkness of your past, but the shadow of your own light. You've been chosen, yes. But being chosen doesn't end with survival, it begins with surrender. And surrender means letting go of the illusion that destiny is always gentle. You once prayed for clarity. But clarity can feel cruel when it reveals how much of your faith was built on fear. You wanted purpose, but purpose demands a price you didn't know you'd have to pay: your certainty. You stand in a strange place now. The people you helped can no longer help you. The strength that saved you feels too heavy to carry, and the dreams that once defined you suddenly feel too small. You've reached the sacred disillusionment, the moment when everything that isn't divine begins to dissolve. This is not punishment, it's purification. Every chosen one must pass through the wilderness of identity, where faith feels like fiction and silence feels like betrayal. Because before you can lead others out of their darkness, you must first confront the shadows that still linger within you. You've been purified by fire, but now you are being tested by reflection. There's a moment when you look into the mirror and no longer recognize who you've become. The eyes are the same, but the soul behind them has shifted. The old self feels distant, like a language you once spoke fluently but have now forgotten. You ask, "Who am I without my pain? Who am I without my fight?" And the universe answers softly, "You are what remains after the suffering has finished its work." But that answer terrifies you, because peace demands a new identity, and the new identity demands the death of the old one. You've outgrown the wounds that once defined you, but part of you still clings to them, because pain gave you purpose. Without it, you fear you'll disappear. And so begins the shadow war, the war of self. You battle not against the darkness outside, but the remnants of it inside, the voices that say you're not ready, not holy enough, not worthy of the destiny written for you. They sound convincing because they wear the tone of your own doubts. But listen closely. Those voices are not prophecy. They are echoes from the old world, the frequency of fear that can no longer access you unless you invite it in. You've already been freed, but the mind takes time to catch up to the miracle. That's why your spirit feels torn between past and future. You are standing at the threshold of your next awakening, and thresholds always demand stillness. Don't rush this part. This is the sacred pause, the place between endings and beginnings, where you learn to trust without proof. You will be tempted to rebuild your life quickly, to prove that your survival meant something. But divine timing is not driven by urgency. The universe is teaching you patience not as waiting, but as alignment. You're not being delayed, you're being calibrated. And in that calibration, the real calling begins to reveal itself. You thought you were chosen to endure, but endurance was only the doorway. You were chosen to reveal. Your pain wasn't random, it was the blueprint for your authority. The lessons that nearly killed you were the very knowledge you now carry to liberate others. You were never meant to keep your healing private. You were meant to become a living prophecy of transformation. But here lies the paradox. Every revelation comes with resistance. The moment you start walking in your light, the shadows will rise again, not to destroy you, but to confirm your illumination. People will misunderstand you. Some will call you delusional. Others will call you changed. Both will be right, because revelation always looks like rebellion to those still living in cages. You will lose things again, but this time you'll understand why. You'll watch relationships fade, not out of malice, but because your frequency no longer fits the conversation. You'll feel alone again, but this time it won't be emptiness, it will be altitude. You are simply walking where fewer can breathe. Do not fight the isolation. It is sacred. Heaven always hides its prophets before it reveals them. And you, chosen one, are in that hiding season now. This is where power incubates. This is where vision matures. This is where purpose sharpens its edge, in the silence of surrender. Do not mistake quiet for absence. Heaven hasn't gone silent, it's amplifying your spirit to hear beyond words. Every disappointment, every delay, every detour is not a punishment, it's choreography. The unseen aligning with the appointed. And one day soon, you'll realize that every unanswered prayer was actually answered through protection. Every no was saving you from what could not sustain you. Until then, breathe. The shadow doesn't mean you've fallen. It means you're being crowned, because only those who walk through darkness without losing their light are trusted to guide others through it. You are becoming that guide now, and when you finally emerge from this silence, you won't need to prove you're chosen. Your presence will do that for you, because this is the chapter where your purpose begins to wake up, and everything that once tried to bury you will soon witness what it means to rise in divine authority. The chosen one. You thought you had already proven your strength. You believed the fire had done its work. But destiny is not finished yet. It tests those it trusts the most. You see, the first storm was meant to awaken you. This one is meant to refine you. At first, it comes quietly. You begin to sense a shift in the air. The same peace that once comforted you now feels heavy, distant, strange. You wake up with a familiar ache, the kind that used to mean something was about to break. But this time, there's no clear reason, just an invisible resistance pressing against your spirit. This is the trial of faith, the hidden examination of every chosen one before their divine unveiling. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with warning. It comes disguised as delay, as silence, as the feeling that maybe you misheard heaven's call. You begin to wonder if you're still chosen, if the voice that once guided you has turned away, if the light you followed has flickered out. The doubt grows quietly, like roots beneath the soil, unseen but alive. You still pray, but your prayers feel heavy. You still believe, but your belief trembles. You still move forward, but every step feels like walking through fog. And yet, this is not regression. It's the divine testing the foundation of your faith, because belief born from comfort is fragile. But faith born from silence, faith that stands even when heaven doesn't speak, is indestructible. You've entered that sacred silence now, where God doesn't give answers, He gives endurance. There will be moments when everything inside you screams to quit. You'll want to retreat back into the version of yourself that was smaller, safer, simpler. But that self is gone. It burned in the furnace of your last awakening. You can't go back. You can only rise forward. And as you walk, life begins to mirror your doubts. The people who once supported you become distant. Opportunities that seemed divine start to vanish. Promises delay their fulfillment. Even the signs you used to depend on, the numbers, the dreams, the confirmations, grow rare. It's as if heaven has muted itself, forcing you to listen not with your ears, but with your soul. And that's the lesson hidden here. The chosen one must learn to trust without evidence. You see, when faith matures, it stops asking for signs. It becomes the sign. You are no longer being guided from the outside. You are being directed from within. This is where most people fall away. They mistake the silence for abandonment, the testing for punishment. But heaven doesn't abandon what it has anointed. It simply hides to see if you will still follow the invisible. So you walk alone, not because you're forgotten, but because you're being refined into someone who no longer needs external validation to stay aligned. The loneliness feels brutal, doesn't it? You've given everything, your heart, your time, your tears, and still there's no breakthrough in sight. You whisper, "I've done all I can. What else do you want from me?" And in that moment of surrender, something sacred begins to shift. Because heaven never asks for more effort, it asks for more trust. The trial of faith isn't about what you can do. It's about who you can become when doing no longer works. When every plan fails and every strategy collapses, and all you have left is a heartbeat whispering, "I still believe. I want to." That's where real faith begins. This is the part of your story where endurance turns into revelation. You start to realize that faith isn't about certainty, it's about relationship. It's not about knowing what's next, it's about knowing who walks beside you, even when you can't see him. And though your hands are empty, your soul is learning how to hold peace. Each day you rise, though you don't feel strong. Each prayer you whisper, though you don't feel heard, each breath you take, though you don't know where it leads, is rewriting your spiritual DNA. Heaven is recording this season, not as defeat, but as evidence. Evidence that you believed even when nothing made sense. Evidence that you stood when everything tried to crush you. Evidence that your loyalty to light wasn't dependent on the outcome. Because the truth is, faith doesn't bloom in miracles, it blooms in mystery. You are learning that now. You're learning to live without guarantees, to walk without sight, to love without proof. It's terrifying, yes, but it's holy. Because this kind of faith doesn't make you feel safe, it makes you eternal. You will notice subtle changes within yourself. You stop chasing validation, because your peace no longer depends on applause. You stop panicking in uncertainty, because you've realized uncertainty is the birthplace of revelation. You stop begging for signs, because you've become one. Your stillness becomes sacred. Your silence becomes authority. And then just when the weight feels unbearable, light returns. Not the blinding flash of rescue, but a steady glow, gentle and real. The kind of light that doesn't announce victory but reminds you that you've already won. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't demand. It confirms. And you realize that the silence was never punishment, it was preparation. You weren't being ignored. You were being initiated into divine trust. What once terrified you now feels like peace. What once felt like delay now feels like design. The darkness hasn't vanished, but now it obeys you. You've crossed a threshold where faith is no longer what you practice, it's who you are. And that's when the heavens speak again, not in thunder, but through your own voice. You were never forsaken. You were being fortified. If you feel this truth, hit like and subscribe. Because the trial isn't your ending, it's your transformation. You are walking into the revelation of power that only silence can teach. And in the next chapter, you will see how the unseen war around you bows to the authority of the faith you've built within. The chosen one. The silence you've endured has not gone unnoticed. Heaven has been watching, recording every tear, every prayer, every moment you chose faith when fear was easier. And now, a new kind of battle begins. One that doesn't come with swords or storms, but with shadows that test your discernment. This is the unseen war, the final refinement before your rise. You may not feel the clash around you, but your spirit senses it. That sudden wave of exhaustion, that random doubt in the middle of peace, that subtle whisper telling you to quit, none of it is random. These are not coincidences. They are remnants of the old war, trying to reclaim ground they've already lost. Because every chosen one reaches this point, the moment when the unseen resists what heaven has already approved. The enemy doesn't fear your pain anymore. Pain didn't destroy you. What it fears now is your peace. Because peace means control. It means clarity. It means the war is no longer outside you, it's beneath you. And so the unseen realm tries again. It can't break you directly anymore, so it attempts to distract, distort, deceive. It will send confusion wrapped in comfort, false light dressed as purpose, and familiar faces carrying old energies disguised as new opportunities. You'll notice how certain people reappear, how old patterns knock again, how nostalgia tries to pull you backward. It's not coincidence, it's strategy. Darkness recycles what used to work, hoping you've forgotten how far you've evolved. But listen, this time, you are not the same. The frequencies that once trapped you no longer match your vibration. The old tricks lose their power because you've learned how to see beyond appearance. You now discern intent before it speaks. And that's the hidden weapon of a chosen one: clarity. You no longer need to fight every battle. You simply recognize what's beneath it, and by recognition alone, you disarm it. But here's the paradox. When you start walking in clarity, confusion intensifies. The unseen realm fights hardest when you're closest to breakthrough, because it knows once you realize your authority, its influence ends forever. That's why this season feels heavier again. Not because you've regressed, but because you've upgraded. Every level of ascension comes with resistance, designed to test whether you truly believe what you've become. So, when the energy shifts, when things start to feel chaotic without reason, remember this. You are not being attacked. You are being announced. The disturbance is not destruction. It's confirmation that you've become visible in the spirit realm as a threat to everything that once oppressed you. Heaven's favor paints a target, but it also grants protection, and the same light that exposes you to opposition also blinds your enemies. They can see your rise, but they can't stop it. They can feel your power, but they can't touch it, because your suffering already drained their weapons. This is where your true authority begins to manifest. When you stop fighting with emotion and start governing with discernment. The chosen don't win through noise. They win through awareness. You've begun to notice the patterns. How chaos seems to strike right after a moment of peace. How distractions arrive just as your clarity sharpens. How opportunities appear that seem divine but carry unease deep within. That unease is not anxiety. It's divine intelligence. It's your spiritual immune system warning you what doesn't belong. You don't have to argue with deception anymore. You simply withdraw your attention and the illusion collapses. That's power. Because the unseen war feeds on reaction. Every time you choose stillness over panic, the darkness loses its appetite. You've reached the stage where silence is your strategy and peace is your sword. Even heaven fights differently through you now. It doesn't need thunder, it uses presence. When you walk into a room, energies shift, hearts soften, truth surfaces. You've become a mirror for the divine, and the unseen knows it. That's why attacks feel subtler now. They're not trying to destroy you, they're testing whether you still recognize yourself in the light. And you do. Even on your weakest days, there's something inside you that refuses to collapse. You don't even pray the same way anymore. You don't beg, you decree. You don't plead, you declare. Because faith has evolved into authority. And authority doesn't ask for peace, it commands it. But here lies the deeper truth. Even in victory, humility must remain. You are powerful, yes, but power without compassion becomes pride, and pride invites the same darkness you once defeated. So you must walk with balance, soft heart, strong spirit, discernment without judgment, wisdom without arrogance. That's the true posture of a chosen one, anchored in peace, yet alert to deception. You're not fighting to prove your worth anymore. You're protecting your frequency. Every time you choose peace instead of retaliation, you build spiritual momentum. Every time you bless what tried to curse you, you rewrite the rules of the battlefield. And soon, the unseen will stop testing you altogether, not because it surrenders willingly, but because it can no longer find access. You've ascended beyond its reach. The war isn't over because it ended. It's over because you outgrew it. And when the unseen finally realizes it can't touch you, it will turn on itself. That's the moment you'll feel a shift, like pressure releasing from your chest, like clarity flooding your spirit. You will stand still, realizing the truth you were born to embody. You were never fighting for peace. You were peace, learning how to remember itself. The war didn't reveal your enemies. It revealed your identity. You are not who you were when the storm began. You are what the storm revealed. And that revelation has made you untouchable. The chosen one. The war has gone quiet. Not because it gave up, but because you transcended the battlefield. You stand now where few have ever stood, in the aftermath of victory that feels almost unreal. The silence that once terrified you now feels like home. The weight that once crushed you now rests beneath your feet. You've become the paradox. The universe designed you to be gentle yet unshakable, scarred yet luminous, still human yet carrying something eternal. This is the revelation, the unveiling of who you've truly been all along. At first, it doesn't look like triumph. There's no crown, no applause, no parade. Just you, breathing in the quiet, realizing that peace doesn't need witnesses. The reward is not recognition, it's transformation. You are not the same soul who entered the fire. That one prayed for rescue. This one walks with authority. Every scar now tells a story, not of suffering, but of sovereignty. Every tear once shed has been reforged into discernment. Every loss has been alchemized into light. This is the hidden secret of destiny. What was meant to destroy you was never your punishment. It was your preparation. You thought the goal was survival, but survival was only the initiation. The real miracle was resurrection. The universe has been preparing this moment from the very beginning, the moment when the ashes of your past become the foundation of your purpose. The moment when you stop asking why it happened and begin to see who it made you. Because this is not the ending, it's the revealing. You have become the living proof that destruction can be rewritten into dominion. The storms you endured have turned into authority that radiates beyond words. People will look at you and not understand why they feel peace in your presence. It's because you carry what you once prayed for. You've become a vessel of divine order where you walk. Chaos cannot stay. You are the answered prayer you once begged heaven to send. It's strange, isn't it? How what once broke you now serves you. How what once scared you now obeys you. That's the power of transmutation, turning pain into prophecy. The world will see your strength and call it resilience, but heaven knows it's revelation, because you didn't just survive, you evolved. You learned that faith is not a bridge out of the fire, it's the breath that keeps you alive inside it. You learned that destiny doesn't spare you from pain, it uses pain to unlock your divine design. And you learned that freedom doesn't come when the war ends, it comes when the war no longer defines you. You no longer chase purpose, you embody it. Every choice now flows from alignment, not fear. Every decision carries weight, not worry. You no longer beg for signs because you've become the sign itself, a walking message of divine completion. And here is the revelation that heaven has been building toward all along. Your suffering wasn't proof that you were cursed. It was proof that you were trusted. Because only the trusted are allowed to bear the kind of fire that purifies generations. You carried wounds that didn't begin with you. You broke patterns that destroyed those before you. You ended a cycle that would have continued had you not stood firm in the storm. Your survival has freed your lineage. Your healing has rewritten your bloodline. Your obedience has rebalanced spiritual equations written long before your birth. You are not just healed, you are historical. Every prayer you whispered in pain became a decree in heaven's language. Every act of endurance shifted something in the unseen. You thought no one saw you, but the entire realm was watching the ancestors who prayed for freedom, the angels assigned to your lineage, the heavens waiting for a soul brave enough to say, "This ends with me." And you said it, not with words, but with endurance. You didn't just speak deliverance, you lived it. Now heaven has declared it finished. The war that followed your bloodline for generations has lost its right to exist. You've become the boundary. What tormented your ancestors cannot touch those who come after you. That's why your life feels lighter now. That's why joy doesn't feel temporary anymore. The war has ended not through defeat, but through completion. And with that completion comes new authority. From now on, when you speak, creation listens. Because your words no longer come from fear, they come from fulfillment. Your voice carries the vibration of someone who has seen darkness, touched despair, and still chosen light. That kind of power cannot be faked. It's carved through experience. This is why the heavens honor you differently now. Doors open that once required knocking. People arrive who match your new frequency. Peace follows you like a shadow that refuses to leave. It's not coincidence, it's consequence. You've aligned with the divine rhythm of your purpose, and everything that belongs to you, must now find its way home. And when you look back, and you will, you won't feel bitterness. You'll feel awe, because every betrayal, every heartbreak, every loss was a sculptor shaping you into someone who could carry eternity without collapsing. You were never being broken, you were being built. This is the revelation the darkness didn't want you to find. That your endurance wasn't a sentence, it was a signal that said, this one cannot be owned, this one cannot be destroyed, this one belongs to destiny. Now, heaven calls you not survivor, not fighter, but sovereign. You carry the mark of completion, the quiet power of one who has met death in spirit and returned with wisdom instead of fear. From this moment on, your life will no longer echo pain, it will radiate purpose. And those who come near you will feel something shift within themselves, even if they cannot name it. That is the anointing of revelation. It doesn't shout, it simply transforms. You don't need to prove you've changed the world, we'll sense it. You don't need to announce your rise, the energy will speak for you. You don't need to chase destiny, it's already walking beside you. You are the embodiment of divine victory. You are what endurance becomes when it refuses to bow. You are the chosen one, not because you were spared from pain, but because you outlasted it and turned it into light. So now, stand still, breathe deeply, let heaven witness its own masterpiece. Your story is no longer a wound, it's a weapon. Your voice is no longer trembling, it's prophetic. Your spirit is no longer healing, it's whole. This is your coronation, disguised as calm. This is your revelation. And if your soul feels this truth, hit like and subscribe, because your journey isn't ending here. It's unfolding into the legacy you were always meant to live. The fire didn't consume you, it crowned you, and the world will now see what heaven already knows. The chosen one has risen.